One of the most overlooked remedies of all time. Ready? Okay. We're going to quickly kind of cover orange peel, one of the most overlooked herbal medicines today, I think, still. Very, very. And traditional Chinese medicine, orange peel is used like extensively. It's one of the probably top tier, most common herbs used. But in America, for some reason, we don't use them. In European history, if you've ever been to like Italy or Greece or anywhere in the Mediterranean, like lemon peels, orange peels, all the citrus peels are used kind of in a similar fashion. So they're really extremely powerful, but everybody just throws them away. So here we're literally just talking about the peel of the orange. So the challenge with getting orange peels is that we want them to be organic because when the citrus industry sprays, all that gets right onto the peels and absorbs in. If you notice, if you eat a lot of like non-GMO oranges, the peels of most citrus fruits are very thin, kind of like a lemon or lime. But the citrus industry, because of frost concerns and that, have bred and kind of engineered the orange trees. You know, when you peel a regular conventional orange, the peel can sometimes be like, almost like an inch thick. That's to protect it from frost, but that's not natural. So conventional like oranges and lemons and that are not good medicine because they've been so tampered with that changes their chemistry and their properties. So here we're just talking about organic orange peels. There's actually a lot of varieties of orange peels used. There's like what's called bitter orange. There's different varieties of orange. Um, in Chinese medicine, they're aged, and the longer they're aged, they're considered more powerful. And it's a very cheap medicine. I mean, I think you can buy like a pound of organic orange peels for, I don't know, five, three, four, $5. Very, very cheap medicine to make. If you're eating organic oranges, you just dry them and save them. It's the same thing. So the energy and property of orange is it's warm, it's a little bit uplifting, and a little bit drying, but not excessively so. Think of orange peel as like a gentle form of ginger. Almost all the exact same properties, except it's just more gentle. And it also tastes a little bit better. So the so this would be classified. I know we haven't talked about all these categories. It's a digestive bitter, it's a carminative, it's has some antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, a lot of expectorant properties, really good for appetite control and weight loss. That's one way it's used in Asia a lot, which is really natural and healthy for. Has some other, a little bit of some secondary antibacterial and kind of anti-diabetic properties. Um, it loves the stomach, spleen, pancreas, and liver, and surprisingly, the sinuses too. So, so all we're gonna do is just peel this little thing, right, and dry them out. Okay. A lot of times in Europe, they're going to be fermented. So you can get like aged, dried peels, or sometimes they're dried and like almost put them in like a sugary, just like sugar, and dry them. So some of the sugar kind of compounds get in it a little bit. So they're like a little sweeter. Or you can just do plain dried. You can age them and ferment them too. The main chemistry is going to be the flavonoids. These are where a lot of the antioxidant and anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory compounds come from. The other compounds in it are going to be where more of the all the digestive and anti-allergy type properties come from. These are the parts that make oranges smell like they do. The aromatic kind of essential oils and really aromatic compounds. So that's going to be like the citrus limanoids and the monoterpenes. This is like a type of essential oil, the monoterpenes. So these are what make orange peels smell the way they do. Okay. I'll pass this around if you want to look at it online as it goes around. These smell different than aged orange peels. I mean, the only difference is in China, they just keep drying them and aging them. And like you can get up to like 40-year-old orange peels that are like thousands of dollars a pound because they're just considered of having more of the medicinal properties we'll talk about. I don't know honestly how that relates to what's changing with the chemistry, but when you smell these, they're very aromatic. These are like kind of the American European varieties. When you smell the Chinese variety, there's almost no aroma. So I would assume flavonoids probably go up, 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 and these aromatic parts go down. I don't know exactly what happens. That would be my assumption, but I'll pass it around. Okay. So a lot of recent research with anti-cancer. Okay. Okay. So the classic conformation in Chinese medicine for orange peel is going to be gassy, bloated people who have a lot of mucus and chronic phlegm and weak digestion. Want me to say that again? The classic, like orange peel type archetype clinical picture would be gassy, bloated, full, um, very bloated after eating and looking or feeling really distended. Um, and then the other part we see with that a lot is going to be a lot of mucus. This can be in the sinuses or lungs. This is especially good for people that have mucus after eating. Like a lot of people who cough up phlegm or do the all the time when the phlegm gets caught in the throat from like the postnasal drip. Okay. It is a little drying. So this is usually more for what we call a damp tissue state constitution or person. But the thing about orange peel is it's so gentle, you can virtually kind of give it to anybody, just like we talked about chamomile, so gentle. I mean, you can just give it to almost anybody. So for that reason, one of the main uses of orange peel that I wish more practitioners in America knew is this is like one of our top 3 pediatric remedies. Like in Chinese medicine, we give this to almost every pediatric formula ever. Why do we do that? Why do you think? So it's gentle. It's very gentle. It never over dries. But as you know, anybody who's ever raised kids, they're just kind of mucus balls, right? Kids always have runny nose and congested ears and little coffee and their eyes even water a lot. And, you know, babies even drool constantly. So we use this for drooling. Um, so in Chinese medicine, there's just this idea, it's called pediatric drooling and sniveling disorder or syndrome, meaning as when children are in the younger stage of development, like the first, especially like 4 or 5 years of life, it's just we call a very phlegm, a very damp time, because that is often common with growth phases. So, and also the gut's developing, right? You're developing resistance to allergens and immune things. So we're going to use this on any child who has virtually any digestive disorder. This includes diarrhea, gas, bloating, hiccuping, mucus in the stool. This is especially good for um, digestive cramps, digestive pains, It's just a wonderful, wonderful herb. It's also really good for kids that have a lot of food allergies and food intolerance, or if you're just not sure yet, like you can't quite pinpoint down if it's an allergy or intolerance. We'll talk about those more later. This is like just the perfect remedy. As you notice, we've talked about this. We say um, health goes on a circular motion, right? So the same problems we see in infancy also show up in the late elder years. So as you know, if you ever worked in a nursing home, the elderly have the same kind of things, right? Constant drooling, constant runny nose, and phlegmy, coughy, mucusy all the time. The longer mucus stays in the body, the more likely it is to eventually breed an infection, right? With kids, this is really common. If you can't clear the mucus in the sinus or lungs, sooner or later, it's going to create an infection. And the same is true of elderly. Just by not clearing all the mucus in the sinuses and lungs, you can eventually have a lot of like respiratory or sinus infections. So for children in general, this is just a really powerful constitutional remedy. It's often combined with a little bit of ginger to make it work even better. But it tastes better. This also makes a delicious glycerite. It's actually very tasty. So you can get kids to drink the tea of this fairly easily, or you can give it to children as a glycerite, which it tastes delicious. Okay. So that would be especially for kids. From a Ayurvedic perspective, we would say this is a very good kapha remedy. Very good for like phlegmy, phlegmatic, mucus prone people with weak digestion. Okay. So in general, we're going to use this for kids for everything. Okay. But let's just talk about all the individual systems though. So for digestion in adults or children, this is going to be good again for gas, hiccuping, burping, bloating, but especially bloating and distension. It's going to be great for diarrhea. It's going to be great for people who react to food. Because as we age, our digestive abilities drop. So this is what we hear with people, that are my age and above is that, oh, I feel good until I eat. And then I immediately feel bloated for the day. And, as the day goes on, I just get more and more bloated until I start over. That's like digestive weakness. So orange peel is one of the greatest herbs just for general weak digestion. It also is an herb that stimulates a lot of digestive enzyme production and especially hydrochloric acid. So as people age, they make less and less hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes. By the way, I'm not a big fan of giving people hydrochloric acid as a digestive enzyme because it's would kind of be like giving somebody a steroid when all they need is like chamomile. It's just so intense that it can bother a lot of people to give them hydrochloric acid. This usually shows up on a label as betaine HCl if you're buying like a digestive enzyme. So usually we have people do what's called a vegetarian digestive enzyme first, which would not have that. And we would give them orange peel instead. So orange peel, as said, is just a great digestive bitter for just weak digestion of any kind, inability to digest heavy foods, fatty foods, or the mucousy foods. What are the mucousy foods again? Dairy, bread, all the leavened or kind of like leavened products, right? Especially bread, dairy, cheeses, things like that. Alcohol tends to be very kind of mucus provoking. And what's interesting is, do you think nature is perfect? It is, right? So the actual fruit of citruses are very dampening and mucus promoting, but nature made it perfect, right? The peels are actually the opposite. The peels break up mucus and congestion. So before we bred oranges to be this weird thing they are today, you would actually just eat the peel and everything, just like you would an apple or a pear or a peach, right? You just eat the peel and everything because that actually counteracted the other properties of it. So,
like the mandarin orange is so small.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Closer to.
Yeah, that would be more like what a tradition. And the oranges were never, I mean, historically, they weren't like these huge 1 pound, like half a pound things. They're just small, like the little mandarins or the little, what do they call them? The cuties and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen an orange tree where they get like essential oils from it? It's just, yeah, it's very small, just like these. They're not like huge usually. So, okay. So, weak digestion. Okay. Also, oddly, really good for hiatal hernia too. And acid reflux and acid indigestion. So, this is orange peel is one of the, in my opinion, one of the classic ingredients in any digestive bitters formula because it kind of balances the bitter flavors of bitters and it's just, it has unique properties for enzyme secretion. Okay. Also good, like very, like I said, very similar to ginger. It's almost the same uses of ginger. You can also use it for nausea, queasiness, vomiting. Especially when people are vomiting mucus, which happens a lot with children, right? Okay. It also can be helpful for constipation, but any kind of digestive cramping or pain. All ages. Here we're talking as young as just infancy. You can use this safely. Okay. Um, you'd use the glycerite or you'd make a tea and just give like a couple drops of the tea. Mm-hmm. Or if they have like formula, you would actually just put a little bit in the formula. Mm-hmm. If mom can do this if she's breastfeeding, and it'll come through the milk some too. Same with ginger. Ginger, some of the properties will come through the milk a little bit. Okay. Okay. So for the respiratory system, this is one of our most classic remedies for what we call cold mucus or heavy mucus, which means there's going to be a lot of it. It's going to be white to clear. And when people cough, it's going to be productive, not for like a dry, barking cough. This would be like a really wet, productive cough where a lot of mucus is coming up. And in children and in the elderly, if they don't clear it, they'll usually vomit it up too. Okay. Um, Same with the sinuses. This is one of our main remedies for chronic sinus congestion and chronic sinus allergies. It's a little bit anti-allergy itself. Has some properties similar to green tea, how it's like a little bit of a natural antihistamine, orange peel, but it also clears mucus from the sinuses. But again, a lot of mucus, clear or more whitish, and like more chronic. Okay. Even if people don't have an infection, this is helpful for. This is also a preventative for weak digestion. This is a preventative for people who are always either coughing up mucus, like in the fall and winter, or it's also preventative for people whose sinuses are always congested. I forgot to mention with digestion too. One of the main signs is that people will have mucus in their bowel movements if they need this digestive herb, or they'll have undigested food in the bowel movements. Those are all signs of like weak hydrochloric acid secretion. Okay. Like I said, you can curate or geek out on aging your orange peel for longer and longer periods of time, and they'll have more medicinal power. But they'll all work somewhat, right?
That kind of unique to orange peels. Does anything, other things when if they're not growing, like roots, the older they are, the more they lose their nutritional value at least.
Yeah, I would say the drying and aging is fairly unique to citrus peels. I don't know a lot of other herbs that get better as they age. So this is an herb that, I mean, literally the longer it's sat there, technically, as long as it's not, as long as it's in like a sterile environment, it's just getting better as it ages. Um, the only other herbs that are like that would be some potentially very powerful or toxic plants. We will age, let them dry for like a whole year. Like a lot of the liver purgatives, like Culver's root, we kind of age it for a year so it's not so intense to kind of mellow it down. So yeah, there's not a lot of herbs that get better as they're sitting around in a jar. And there's a lot of amazing Chinese case studies of people using like literally 40-year-old orange peels and having like phenomenal success. Yeah. Amazing tincture. It works good as just, you can't really buy it in a capsule. So, I mean, there's a lot of Chinese formulas that have it in there, but in general, we're going to either make a tincture or an alcohol-free glyceride out of this, or we're just going to make a tea out of it. So, you can even throw a little peel in as you're drinking any other kind of tea for digestion. It's really, really helpful. All the peels are good, by the way. Pomegranate peel we use a lot for indigestion. Lemon, lime, orange, they're all really, really good. Okay. There is some modern research too that the antioxidants that are in orange peel possibly can have like they affect you from UV damage, but they could potentially be like a good skin cancer preventative. It's like a kind of a newer area of research.
And is that through drinking it also?
Also through drinking it, yeah. But probably potentially putting it on topically too, yeah. Okay, it's also said very safe. Even if people are allergic to citrus, that does not mean they're allergic to citrus peels. They're allergic more to the fruit and the proteins, which is a different chemistry than the peel. So, a lot of people that have citrus allergies, actually, citrus peel can be really helpful for. So, but it's just one of the greatest herbs. It's just great for any time you have just chronic, when someone just comes in and their nose is always draining and like their throat has got that, like, you know what I mean, that we call it like phlegm in the throat. Just getting stuck all the time and they have weak digestion in general. It's just, this is like a classic remedy. I just can't tell you how simple this herb is. Very, very simple. And safe. There is no toxic dose of it. Like I said, it combines really well with ginger for digestive problems, for respiratory problems with kids and adults and the elderly. It combines really good with L-campaign root, which we'll cover later. Those two really, really kind of work well together, tandem. For allergies, it works really well combined with green tea, just like putting a little orange peel in your green tea for like chronic allergies, like we talked about. What's that?
Allergies is fine.
Green tea. Mhm. I mean, you could combine with other things too, but that would be like a real simple remedy that works really well together. So the only challenge is we've got to have organic oranges. So you never throw your peels away. Try to save them. People think they don't already think you're crazy a little bit. Probably really think you're crazy at that point. Okay. Questions on that?
So you're dehydrating with a dehydrator?
I just put them on like a paper towel and just let them dry on my countertops mostly. Or if you have a drying rack, or yeah, you can just get really cheap drying racks. You don't have to have a dehydrator to do this. Yeah, just leave them out for like a week or so.
In the summer, they'll hold.
I have a question.
Yeah. You could do, yeah, fan. You can buy really cheap, just like herb drying racks, as long as the area is dry. You could keep a dehumidifier by it. You don't have to have like a fancy dehydrator to do a lot of this. Or put them in like a paper sack and like just seal the top. Just like cover, like a lunch box where you're just kind of not zipping the top, but folding it over to kind of keep moisture out. They'll dry really well, like in a little paper sack too. That's just a good cheap home remedy, home way to do it. So
It becomes, oh, we can only be wet at the seat and you dry over here and go, did you just?
Yeah.
the water of your hands?
So I just wish more people knew about this remedy, especially like the elderly and children. Just to me, oh, I forgot to mention too that this is like a really good, very underappreciated herb for appetite suppression naturally, and also weight loss. It does also help cholesterol a little bit too, but I think there's a lot of other herbs that are better for cholesterol.
So, and this would help somebody who had their gallbladder removed.
It would be somewhat helpful through digestion of someone that's had their gallbladder removed. Yeah. Because it is a little bit of a, you can taste it. It's a little bit of a bitter. You can taste a little bit of that bitterness. Okay. Yeah, you can use orange zest in cooking. It's used a lot in Asian. I mean, orange chicken, like real orange chicken, is actually flavored with infusing the peels into water and then making it. Now, I mean, most Chinese restaurants just take orange flavoring, but orange chicken was usually the peels because chicken's very drying. So orange chicken is a traditional recipe, like historically, for like mucousy weak lungs, because chicken goes to the lungs and is very drying for mucus, and so does orange peel. So it's like more of a medicinal culinary recipe. If you go to more authentic Chinese restaurants, there'll be orange peels in your orange chicken and in a lot of dishes, like pretty big chunks of it. So you can also candy just like you can ginger, you can candy orange peels and eat them. It's done a lot overseas, but not so much here. Okay, so don't underestimate little old orange peel. Yeah, there's a couple of famous commercial Chinese medicine weight loss teas that have quite a bit of research on them that are just simple things like orange peel and green tea. I mean, they're not super fancy. They work really well though. The good thing is it's safe, right? There's no danger in promoting this for appetite control or weight loss because it's just so safe. There's no stimulants in it. There's nothing else. There is a variety called bitter orange that does have a little bit of a stimulating compound in it that's related to ephedrine, but is a little different. But regular orange peel does not have that. Okay. Questions on orange peel or questions online? Yeah, so you can make a lot of, it's probably Paul asking the question. Yeah, there's a lot of, so Paul, yeah, orange is just an amazing cough remedy. Just for phlegmatic, thick, mucousy people with like sluggish kind of digestion. So you can, yeah, you can make a tea and kind of reduce it down into like a thicker syrup to flavor stuff. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it.
Well, also you could put it with
Okay. Any other questions on orange peel?
I use it in a cranberry nut bread. Tell them I use it in.
So cranberry nut bread, a lot of cranberry sauces will have like shredded orange peel in it. So you can zest the orange, same effect if you want to like flavor something, or you can just dry the peels.
I And you
drying
use this
does.
to dry it, it'll dry faster.
That's a cool idea.
Nicholas.
No, sounds good.
That
You
too.
could also zest do other mixed drink things with it. Yeah, yeah. There's some other use for it. I can't remember. That's similar to that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I really love green tea with a little orange peel or pu'er tea, like for indigestion with a little bit of orange peel. It's really helpful. But you can mix, little orange peel and like peppermint tea or chamomile tea. It just will like improve the digestibility ability that maybe kids or adults or elderly are lacking. It's just a great remedy to have. So don't underestimate it. Prairie Star once made one of their glycerites turned into a blob or something. So they gave it to us. It's like this like 1 pound blob of almost like like a harder gelatin mass that had formed that you just like bite off like a tablespoon at a time. It was awesome. But they couldn't sell it because it looked weird. But it was like a great digestive little thing. Like an orange peel slime.
Is there a brand of glycerin you like?
For glycerites, we just want to make sure if we can that they're more sunflower derived instead of soy or something like that, something that we think about more now. But otherwise, yeah, Mountain Rose or all those places, they'll tell you the source and if it's organic or not. You can get good glycerin from Frontier or Mountain Rose or any of those places. Food grade. Yeah. So it's very cheap. Cheaper than alcohol. So. Okay. Any other questions on orange peel? Also, as Paul, you probably know this recipe too. Duck. So poultry and birds of a feather usually are cooked with oranges traditionally in
Duck à la
Chinese
raw.
cuisine because duck and chicken both go to the lungs. That's why we eat duck in the fall. But yeah, you can get like orange sauces to cook duck with is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I know in Asia, this makes sense, like eating like ginger ice cream or orange peel ice cream makes sense because it's actually going to help you break down the heavier dairy proteins in there. So that it's done a lot in Asia. You'll have things like that. Okay. Yep. All right.